Step into the light where the wild ones roam, where the heart speaks loud, calling this place home. We break the rules, we paint the sky, ridiculously you. We were born to fly. Ooh, it's ridiculously you.
Hey everyone, this is Julie May and the Ridiculously You podcast. I'm excited to have you guys here. So I'm thrilled about today's guest, and I want to ask you a question. What if a hug could heal you? What if your body wasn't a battleground but a bridge? What if the real rebellion was radical connection? Today's guest is someone who sees people, like really sees them. Her name is Reverend Edie Weinstein. She's a licensed social worker, interfaith minister, psychotherapist, speaker, journalist, and founder of Hug Mobsters, Armed with Love, which I totally love that whole idea. We're going to talk more about Hug Mobsters. She's interviewed spiritual leaders like the Dalai Lama, y'all, but it is really like the person standing alone at the edge of the room that draws her in. The one who's like walls are high, the one who hasn't been hugged in years. And she shows up in bright colors with her purple hair, which we can just jive on because I obviously have my pink hair. And she's there with open arms and offers a sacred, simple reminder that you matter. And today we're going to talk more about what it means to stop shrinking even when you're scared. We're going to talk about touch trauma, choosing to love, and that like human connection that we've all been missing. So welcome, Edie.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. I want to hear so many things, but I want to get into hugs first, because this idea of connection, it's like one of the things we just launched recently was the Ridiculous Women's Society, because this idea that we are disconnected in our lives and in everything right now is such a huge pandemic. It's just an epidemic across the world of loneliness. So how did you get involved in this, in Hug Mobsters? How did that come about? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. So if we want to roll the clock back even before I founded Hug Mobsters, I grew up in a very nurturing, touchy-feely family. My parents, my sister, me, and then at various times, different grandmothers. And big extended family. My maternal grandmother was one of 13 children. So there were lots of aunts and uncles and cousins around and lots of hugs. In our house, nobody left or came in without a hug. And our friends realized that too. And I thought, oh, everybody's family's like that. Not necessarily so.
Cute,
in a
no.
lot of people's lives, touch is either limited, non-existent, sexual, abusive, or coercive. And I believe firmly that touch with consent is healing.
Absolutely.
So throughout my life, I grew up around very nurturing friends, a lot of huggy friends. And then I had heard about this man in, I'm thinking New Zealand, either New Zealand or Australia. He called himself One Man, Juanmann. Now that was a pseudonym. One Man, no.
Yes.
So he'd moved, I think, from England to, again, either New Zealand or Australia. He was really lonely, very sad, touch deprived. And he went to a party and somebody hugged him. And he thought, wow, that really feels good. I'm going to take it to the streets. So he went to the town square where he lived, and he stood there with a black and white sign that said free hugs. And he stood there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Nobody approached him. They all looked at him like, what's this guy's deal? Finally, this older woman who I think had a loss, I think her dog had died, walked up to him, held her arms up. He reached down, he's very tall, and a movement was born. And people started coming over and hugging him. And I thought that would be really cool to do. So I'm going to do a free hugs flash mob. So I invited a group of friends to 30th Street Station, which is a big train station in Philadelphia, for a free hugs flash mob. And it was the day after Valentine's Day, 2014. And there were a dozen of us. And the purpose for that particular weekend was that I wanted people to understand that hugs are not just for romantic partners, neither is Valentine's Day. It's about love.
Yeah.
So within an hour's time, we estimated that we hugged about 200 people. coming through the station. We always asked first, and they had to say yes. Or if they said no, thank you, we would say, well, thank you for taking care of yourself. And I would always say, hug somebody. So
Yes.
one person that approached us was an Iraq war vet, and he told us that he was the only survivor of his platoon and he had survivor's guilt. And he told us that he thought about ending his own life until that moment. He said, you people give me hope.
Wow.
Can I join you? So we gave him his own free hug sign and he joined us. And my thought was, wow, hugs save lives. Now, I have no idea what happened to this man. I hope that he's still alive and I hope that he found his purpose. And I thought, oh, this is just going to be a one-off event. I don't, it's not something I'm going to do regularly. Wrong. 5 months after that, as fate would have it, I was on my way home from the gym. I was 55 years old and I had a heart attack. And women's heart attack symptoms are very different from men's.
They
It's
are.
not typical crushing left arm chest pain, like keeling over kind of thing. Jaw pain and tightness, like somebody when I couldn't move my jaw. Torrential sweats, palpitations, searing heartburn pain, like front and back. And I didn't drive straight to the hospital.
Oh my
Workaholic that I was,
goodness.
I drove home, picked up the phone, and called my office. I was working as a therapist in a drug and alcohol outpatient program, working with addicts. And here I was, literally addicted to work. I called and said, I'm not feeling very well. Can you cancel my clients? And I had the phone in my hand. I still didn't call 911. I got
Oh my
back in the
goodness.
car, drove to the hospital 10 minutes away, and don't ever, ever do that, anybody. I mean, it was dangerous. And I can only attribute it to oxygen deprivation, that I wasn't thinking clearly. So I stumble into the ER and I say, I think I'm having a heart attack. They whisk me up to the cardiac cath lab and inserted a stent in the left anterior descending artery, the LAD, the widowmaker thingy, so
Yeah.
as part of my cardiac rehab, I walked through my little town of Doylestown and I thought, why don't I combine the hugging with the walking? Because hugs are not just emotionally heart friendly, but physically cardiac heart friendly. So I created free hug strolls. Sometimes friends would join me, like some of the
Yeah.
folks that were with me in Philly, and sometimes I would do it by myself. So all these years later, I estimate that I've hugged several thousands of people, not just in my area, but all throughout the country. A few years ago, I was in Canada visiting friends, so I did free hugs in their little town. And then in 2018, I hugged my way across Ireland. I brought my son
Wow.
with me to Ireland, and it was just remarkable. And then this little thing happened called the pandemic. Bam, shut everything down. And I'm not prone to depression, but boy, was I depressed. I thought, what
Mm.
if we can never hug again? And I
Yeah.
said, that can't be possible from a metaphysical, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, perspective. How could we be created with this need for, skin hunger need that we'll never be able to do it again? So I had a dream where we could hug back to back or back to front like spooning. And I thought, okay, phew, eventually it's going to happen. So once I got vaccinated, wearing a mask, I would go out and do virtual hugs. So I would approach you from a distance and say, would you like a virtual hug? I would hug myself, you would hug yourself, and it would be as if we were hugging.
Oh,
So you want to try that? Just,
let's do it.
yeah, you ready?
Mm.
Okay. So I did a whole bunch of that. And during the pandemic, I live alone. I hugged myself. I wrapped myself in blankets. I have stuffed animals. I would do self-massage. I'm also a massage practitioner. Um, Baths, whatever, what's the word? Tactile kind of things
Yeah.
that helped me feel like I wasn't alone. And yes, marvels of modern technology, Zoom, all that, FaceTime is wonderful, but it's not the same as literally touching another person. So I would hug trees. I forgot about that. I hugged trees. And
Mm.
the first mammal that I hugged was my cousin's dog. I
Mm.
went to visit her and we were sitting like 20 feet apart, not even six. And
Yes.
the dog kept running back and forth between us. And she was muddy and she was jumping in my lap and I cried. I thought, oh my God, this living, breathing being that I can hug. And then as things felt safer and started opening up, I started doing actual free hugs, wearing a mask, turning my head to the side. And now I'm just out there full frontal, not full frontal close off, but full frontal. Um,
Now, if
so
the listener just gets in on this part, then they're like, full frontal, wait, back up. What are we
right,
talking about?
right. Yeah. What was that? Was there a movie by that name? No, there was I forget what it was called.
You're
Um,
maybe thinking of Full Monty, but like,
The Full Monty. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it's one of my
So it
favorite
wasn't
movies,
one of those. It wasn't
actually.
one of those. I work, platonic touch. So, um, I've been doing it since then. I also do what's called free mom hugs. Have you ever heard of
Mhm.
that?
No.
Um, Sarah Cunningham, I always give her a shout out when I talk about free hugs. Sarah Cunningham is a mom in Oklahoma City,
Mm.
and she was a devout Christian. Her son came out to her as a gay man, and she had a
Mm.
complete, like, I don't even know what to call it. Not a
Yeah,
meltdown, but a dark night of the soul.
for
And
sure.
she said, "How can I choose between God and my son?" And she realized she didn't have to. He invited her to go to a pride fest in Oklahoma City. So she made a little button, put it on, and said free mom hugs,
Yeah.
with the idea that a lot of people's moms or dads don't hug them when they come out.
Mm.
So she said by the end of that time, she was covered in tears and glitter, and she had a movement on her hands. And it was probably around the same time, I don't remember the exact year, that I started Hug Mobsters. And she left her non-affirming church,
Yep.
became an interfaith minister and an ordained minister, and she marries same-sex couples.
Mm.
And she's also a stand-in mom for same-sex weddings. So what she says is, if your mom won't come to your wedding, I'll come and I'll even bring the bubbles.
Mm.
So I do the free mom hugs thing too.
That touches my heart. I grew up very strict religion wise, and I have more than one child who's, in the LGBTQ land. And yeah, I no longer associate with that religion. And I saw so many kids, so many families
Mhm,
where they were not accepted, and it was really difficult for them. And I'm like,
mhm,
my heart just goes out. It's a really tough thing for them, and
mhm,
just being there and saying, you know what, you are beautiful and perfect and
mhm. Yep.
deserve all the love and all the hugs, and you're the one that's important to me. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
that the big thing. Big
Mhm.
thing. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
So, like, you have so many
So
good
join Free
stories.
Mom Hugs, freemomhugs.org. Sign up.
Yes.
It doesn't cost anything. And you too can be a free mom hugger.
I
And they
will
have
have to see what I can do about that, because I'm like, wait a minute, that definitely rings to my soul. And I've been super grateful too for the other moms that have been there for my kids. There's times I have, and I don't know how many listeners actually know this, but I have basically 7 people that I call my children. I had 4 biologically, and then I had 3 bonus kids with an ex-spouse that I still would call my own kids. So we have like 7 of these people out there,
Yeah.
and several of them are, LGBTQ and have like lots of different expressions. And there's been times where I haven't been able to be there, or they were mad at me, or whatever it was, because
Mhm,
mom kid relationships. And I've been massive grateful for the other parents who could step in and be there
mhm.
and be strong and
Yeah.
whatever for any
Yeah.
of my kids has been a massive, massive blessing. So, I
Yeah.
definitely am going to go check that out right now. That
Absolutely.
is incredible.
Yeah, and it's, family of choice is what I call it.
That's exactly it.
So yeah, I do the same thing. I'm an interfaith minister and I marry same-sex couples as well.
Mm,
And I know it's trite to say love is love is love, but it is. And I don't know why people are so obsessed with other people's plumbing and what they do
exactly.
behind closed doors, what they do in their private lives. Who's it hurting?
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. Well, and I will tell you the things from, at least that I observed from my kids, is that is who they always were. And God doesn't make junk or make mistakes or whatever. That is who they were meant to be. That is how they were meant to experience this world.
Yeah.
And they are beautiful and perfect and whatever in their own ways, all on their
Mhm.
own. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's the thing from my perspective is
Yeah.
who am I to say who they get to love and experience joy
Yeah.
with, or what that needs to look like for them, and
Yeah.
more ways for
Yeah.
us to love and appreciate each other is
Mhm.
good. So I want to talk more about this connection piece and how you've seen the movement grow after COVID, because all of us saw that. All of us lived and experienced a world where you literally couldn't hug most people, even like your spouse and stuff. Some people weren't even able to do that because it was like there was so much fear. And so many of us went through and not even be able to see each other's mouths. There's something like
Right.
connectedness about that. And it is one of the, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like a
Mhm.
human absolute need. It's not like it's nice to have. Humans
Mhm.
have a biological need for connection that didn't get
Yep.
met for so long. And I did see so many people going into depression, anxiety, and
Mhm.
things like that during that time. So you talked about the movement start, like you started doing this before COVID, but like
It
how
finished
after
it.
COVID did you see it have a different kind of impact?
Well, I talked about this with my friends, and you know, in the world, people were saying, when this is over, when we can hug again, look out, you
Yeah.
know, because you know, it's like starving.
Yeah.
And it is literally like starving, because humans have food hunger needs that I think is just as important to meet as touch needs, skin hunger needs, just as important to meet as food hunger needs, because there have been plenty of studies that say that without nurturing touch, babies fail to thrive. So do adults.
Yep.
People, you know, the Surgeon General last time around, whose name escapes me, declared an epidemic of loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
disconnection, suicidality, you know, depression. And as a therapist, I saw it a lot. I was grateful that we had telehealth, and that's the majority of what
Yeah.
I do now anyway. But it's not the same as heart to heart. So, um, people are more, I think, more comfortable. Some are more comfortable with hugs. There's some that are still a little afraid, and I respect that. If I'm out at a public place at an event, for example, I was at a local fall festival over the weekend, and I had a T-shirt on that a friend got me that said "hug dealer" on it, like
Love
drug
it.
dealer, hug dealer,
Yeah.
and some people would come running up to me, I want to hug, I want to hug. And other people would look at it, like, huh, what is that? And I say, would you like a hug? Sometimes they would say, no, I'm good, I'm all right. And I'll say, well, hug somebody. And
Yeah.
there's some people would say, well, I'm sweaty. And I said, I've hugged lots of, I don't know if I should probably say that. I hugged a lot of sweaty people, because then they would
Yeah.
think that I'm going to transfer the other people's sweat to them. But it's by consent. I
Yes.
don't get offended if somebody says no, thank you. I just say, well, make sure you hug somebody in your life,
Mm,
because we need that. Our skin is our single biggest organ, right?
mm.
So I've noticed that people are hungrier for it. I notice they're more likely to ask for it. Although it's considered a taboo, in my profession as a therapist, I hug my clients only if they
Yeah.
ask for it, like on the way out the door. Some of them, that may be the only time they get hugs, you
Mm,
know? Um, and in 2022. It's already 3 years already. This past week, I did a TED talk called "Overcoming the Taboo of Touch,"
mm.
and it was a TEDx talk actually. Was in Lima, Ohio, and it was an amazing, like, bucket list item experience. And that's what it was about, is that in certain professions, we're told, you know, in therapy, we're told we're not supposed to touch our clients.
Yeah.
And the whole through line is, why the heck not?
Yeah.
As long as it's by consent, as long as it's therapeutic, as long as it meets the needs of the client, not the therapist, then it was fine. And I talked a lot about hug mobsters during the talk. So if people want to watch the TED talk, it's "Overcoming the Taboo of Touch," Edie Weinstein. You can look it up. It's, you know, on YouTube. So that was pretty cool.
We'll have to find the link and put
Yeah,
it in the
I'll
show
send it to you.
description down there.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
send it.
send it to us so we can put it down there because I'm sure people want to
Mhm.
get in and listen to that as
Yep.
well.
Yeah,
So another thing I wanted to ask you about too is this is something I've noticed is like it went like this to me anyway. COVID happened, we were like all separated and we didn't love it and it was like by the time it got safe enough, people were like craving touch and wanting to be connected and all of that. And somehow, and this could be my perspective, but somehow over this last year, maybe there's been a lot of disconnection. You know, the news medias are shouting one side against another side.
Mhm.
The anger and the tensions are growing between, you know, different philosophies and sides, and it feels like there's a bigger and bigger divide happening among people in a time where I'm like, it wasn't that long ago, guys, where we had that taken away from us,
Right.
and now we're listening to people shout with us about, you know, that side's wrong and that side's wrong and whatever. And it's not that I don't think you should stand up for what you believe in, but there's part of me that goes, but isn't the idea to find the places we're connected? Isn't it the idea to find the principles underneath that we agree on so that we can move forward better?
Hmm.
But I don't see a lot of that happening right now.
Hmm.
So do you have any thoughts on that? And like,
Yeah.
what are some solutions maybe? Because that's the world I feel like we're living in. And part of why we do this whole podcast is let's find places to connect. Let's find
Right.
commonalities. Let's find places where our
Mhm.
hearts are the same. We want the same things, right? We want love, we want connectedness, we want safety, we want
Hmm.
communities that are healthy and happy. Let's find
Right.
ways to do that. So tell me your
Yeah.
thoughts.
So what I do is, first of all, when I hug people, unless they tell me, I don't know who they voted for, I don't know what their religion is, I don't know where they were born, I don't know where they grew up. But hugging people does open those doors to conversation.
Yeah.
I also know I deliberately dressed down for this interview. I don't know if you can see. Does it show up
Oh,
in backward
it
or
says
forward?
kindness, equality, and then something else.
Uh-huh.
Inclusion.
Inclusion, diversity, peace, and love, all those hippie thoughts, right?
Yes.
So I am a walking billboard for those kind of thoughts. I was talking to somebody today that has a lot of rock concert t-shirts, rock group
Uh-huh.
t-shirts. And I have a lot of social justice, hippie, peace,
Yeah.
kind of t-shirts. So people know what I stand for when they see me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have very, solid worldviews like you do, like everybody
Yep.
listening. And I try to bridge that gap between what, the world the way it is and the world the way I want it to be. And this is the way I want it to be, what's on here.
Exactly.
So I can pretty much gauge people's thoughts by how they react to my t-shirts.
Mm.
And I'm waiting for a conversation where I could say, well, what part of this don't you agree with? Like, why wouldn't you want that? So roll back the clock 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, right before Christmas, I was in a store picking up a last minute gift for my daughter-in-law and perusing a shelf with these, the syrups that you pump in coffee, different flavored
Yes.
syrups. Well, my
Yes.
son said, can you pick up a couple of those for Lauren? And standing next to me was a gentleman on Bluetooth talking to somebody who, um, I later found out was his son. And he's telling him, oh, these are $2 more than they were last year. It's all the fault of liberal voters. And I went, and he said to his son, I'm going to hang up now. I just made a woman flinch or cringe. I forget which word he used.
Yeah.
And he turned to me and I said, well, fun fact, I am one of those liberal voters, and I don't know what that has to do with the price of the syrups.
Yeah.
And we had a lovely half an hour conversation. He was a police officer.
Oh, how
Um,
wonderful.
he was he graduated with a degree in history. So
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't spouting Fox News propaganda. It was, this is history. This is our country's history. And we would not volley back and forth, but share our thoughts and ideas. Nobody stopped to listen to us. It was like we were in our own little bubble. So at the end of the conversation, he said, I need to go home. My wife isn't feeling well. But thank you for this conversation. He said, can I take a picture with you so I can show my son who I hung up on him to talk to? I was wearing a tie-dye sweatshirt that said, be kind.
So
And
you were fully hippie
yep,
representing.
you got it. So I said, sure. And I said, can I hug you? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I hope I planted some seeds for you. And we went on our way. Um, and I've had other encounters like that. Some have been heated,
Yeah.
and I've tried to bring down the temperature. There's a wonderful project that NPR has called One Small Step,
Mm.
and it's a podcast, and they match people with someone of different political beliefs, upbringing, religion. And I did this, I think it was a year or so ago, and they matched me with a young woman, 25, 26 years old, maybe
Yeah.
even younger, who grew up in another part of the country, never met a Northerner, grew up in an evangelical Christian home with people who supported the other team.
Yep.
And she said, I want you to know that I'm an outlier in my family, that I really want to feel more comfortable expressing myself, so I'm doing this. And the interview was placed in the National Archives of the Library of
Oh,
Congress.
wow. That's
We had a
cool.
lovely conversation, and I saw she had this massive tattoo on her arm, and I said, "What is that tattoo?" And she said, "Our Lady of Guadalupe," which is, another incarnation of Mother Mary.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, how did an evangelical person have, that kind of, Catholic tattoo?" She says, "Well, I believe in the divine feminine." And I went, "Oh, we have something in common, you know."
And we have
So
something to talk about.
yes, we had more to talk about than just politics. And it was lovely. So by the end of the conversation, we were both crying, and we've stayed in touch. I'm old enough to be her mother,
Hmm.
maybe even grandmother. I'm going to be 67 next week. So
Wow.
um, I try to find connection. Do I try to change people's minds? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I go to protests, I speak at protests. I'm a journalist, so I write about social justice.
Mm.
I've got a stack of postcards over here I need to finish to remind people to vote, that kind of thing. So I'm doing what I can to make the world a better place. Am I doing it in the way that everybody thinks I should? No. But the other thing, with everything going on in the world, we need to find pockets of joy,
Oh, for sure.
because I wake up thinking, okay, what fresh hell broke out overnight? What do I need to worry about?
Right?
What do I need
That's
to know?
exactly it.
And um, in June 1st, friends of mine got married. I co-officiated their wedding in Virginia. And after the ceremony, I thanked them both. I said, "Thank you for giving us an opportunity to experience joy.
Mm.
We really need this." There's a writer named Audre Lorde, and she coined the phrase, "Joy is an act of resistance."
Oh,
So if you
interesting.
can look that up, Audrelorde, I believe is how her name is spelled.
Okay.
Audre Lorde. Joy is an act of resistance.
Mm.
So it's okay to resist hostility and violence peacefully.
Mm.
You
What
know,
does joy look like to you? You get to have a joyful day. What does that look like to you?
well, time with my grandchildren, which I got to do a little bit this morning.
Mm.
They're 3 and 5. Time with friends and other friends and family members. Hugging, obviously. I went to the gym also, so exercise, working out, time in nature. Um, Chinese food. I had that for lunch today.
Mm. What's your
Um,
favorite Chinese food?
I had sesame tofu.
Oh, yum,
So
yum.
that's good. Yeah, sesame tofu and rice and broccoli and spring roll. Um, so what else is joyful? Music, singing. I
Mm.
don't like this raspy voice is not my normal speaking voice. I have COPD, so
Mm.
one of the inhalers that I use makes me raspy. But I could still sing. It doesn't hurt. My throat doesn't hurt. It's just gravelly.
What's your
Um,
favorite kind of music?
folk, mostly
Yeah.
folk music, singer-songwriter, indie song, Americana, um, 60s and 70s, Woodstock era hippie music. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. How about, is that you're nodding? So is that?
I love that kind of thing too, but I have such a wide range of music. It's so funny. My kids kind of inherited this too. So it's like we'll have that and it'll be like I love some old like Kingston Trio or like Peter Paul and Mary. I love Simon Garfunkel. Like I'll have
Yeah.
that. And then the next thing will be some 80s hair band. Then it'll be Broadway because I love Broadway. And then it'll be like uh and F because I actually really like his rap music. So like my
Yep.
musical variety is very
Eclectic.
large and it kind of depends
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
day.
Yeah, there's a wonderful radio station that anybody can listen to. It's based in Philly called WXPN,
Uh-huh.
88.5 on the dial. But if you're going to stream it, it's xpn.org.
Mm,
Totally eclectic music, every kind of music imaginable.
yeah.
This past week, I was watching a Grammy tribute to Cyndi Lauper. I
Oh,
mean, your pink hair reminded me. Um,
I just went to her concert and like she is like my freaking hero. I can just, and her concert was crazy because it was like half memoir of her just talking to us about her life and the
yeah,
things she has done. And she has just been such a social icon for me for
yeah,
so long because like back in the day, her like weird dress and style and way of looking, everyone told her not to do. In fact, the record executives told her to wear jeans and a t-shirt. Can you imagine? And like regular hair. Can you imagine Cyndi
right.
Lauper
No,
in
no, no.
t-shirt and
No
jeans?
way am I doing that. What are you talking about? I can't do that. That's
That's
not me.
exactly it. That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
so like she did her whole thing and she just
Yeah.
did it anyway. And she was such like a fashion icon and she's always
Mhm.
stood for women's rights and what it's like to actually be a woman who loves themselves and is free to express themselves.
Yeah.
And so like she's freaking like
Hmm.
serious icon, one of my
Yeah.
heroes. And
Yeah.
so anything with Cyndi Lauper,
But it
I'm
was
like,
good.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yep. She
Yeah.
was amazing. And she sang duets with John Legend, SZA, who
Mm,
else? Cher, of course, Joni
of
Mitchell.
course. Joni Mitchell, of
Oh,
course.
Trombone Shorty. Do you know his music?
I
He's
don't.
New Orleans trombone artist.
Love it.
Angelique Kidjo. That I mean was just absolutely phenomenal. And there was a young man who I didn't know. I can't think of his name, but and then Billie Eilish did
A
a
big Billie
video
Eilish
tribute. She
fan.
didn't sing, but she did a video
Mm.
tribute. And then Brandy Carlisle, do you know her music?
Mm-mm.
Brandi Carlisle, Carlile, not to be confused with Belinda Carlisle.
Yes.
I think the Go-Go's.
Who I am
She
familiar
is, yeah, but
with.
she is, look her up. You would love her music.
Yeah.
She is married to a woman. They have two daughters. Um, she is, I don't even know how to describe her music, but she did a video tribute too. And she talked about how, um, my mind just went blank. How, who were we just talking about? Oh my gosh.
Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper, thank you. Thank you. I'll tell you what just happened here.
Yeah.
Um, Cyndi Lauper was an outspoken advocate, has always been an outspoken
Yeah.
advocate
Always.
for LGBTQ people. And she
Mm-hmm.
called her something like a legendary badass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's her energy. That's how she is. But what just happened here, I noticed that have more brain blips where I can see something, it goes right out my brain.
Mm.
A couple of weeks ago, I was doing a couple session, client therapy session,
Yeah.
and they said something, and I was trying to come up with a brilliant response, and I just glitched, just like froze. And they said, "Uh-oh, we broke her brain." That happens sometimes. That for those of you of a certain generation, you may notice that the hard drive gets full, and the problem isn't storage, it's retrieval. Being able to
Yeah.
pull it out and go, there it is.
Yeah.
So that happens sometimes.
And that's
Um,
okay too.
yeah, yeah.
I do want to hit on this how you got to interview the Dalai Lama.
Oh, yeah. That was in 2008. So in 19, what year was it? 1988, my husband, who has since passed, and I created a magazine called Visions, had to do with
Mm-hmm.
holistic health and wellness. And I interviewed a lot of the movers and shakers in the metaphysical, mental health realms. But I always wanted to interview the Dalai Lama. And I am really lucky that I'm surrounded by yay sayers, not a whole bunch of naysayers. So family and friends would say, "Oh yeah, we know someday you'll do this." So I think it was like 2004, and he came to Rutgers Stadium in New Brunswick, New Jersey,
Right.
to speak. And one of my other gifts is PR and marketing. I'm
Mm.
able to help promote people's work. So the people that were organizing it said, "Would you be willing to help us get the word out?" And they said, "Sure. And
Yeah.
by the way, is he granting interviews?" And they said, "No." And I said, "All right, I'll do it anyway." So I went there with a little mini tape recorder and I walked around the stadium interviewing the people that were there
Oh,
and
wonderful.
tell me what it's like to be here. Why are you here? And I wrote an article about it. I don't even remember where it was published. And at the end of the event, they gave us these postcards with his face on it.
Hmm.
So I kept it I taped it to the dashboard of my car. I made vision boards with his picture on it. And
Yes.
somebody suggested taking a picture of myself and putting it next to his for proximity. Another friend suggested writing questions as if I would be interviewing him tomorrow.
Love it.
Oh, my ace in the hole was my dear friend Greg Schultz, and I always call him out and when I tell the story, who's an American-born Buddhist, and he is very much involved with the Tibetan rights movement. He
Mm.
was asked to be an event producer when His Holiness came to Philly in 2008. And he said, will you help me promote it? I said, sure. And by the way, and is he granting? No. And I said, all right, I'll do it anyway. He said, well, I'll see if there's something I can do. So months went by and we were playing that kids game, getting warmer,
Yes.
maybe. So early July of 2008, I'm at a music festival standing there with two friends. One of them was a photographer. And I'm looking to see if I have the picture here. No, I don't. Okay. The phone rang and it's my friend Greg. And he said, are you sitting down? And I said, should I be? He said, yes, you got the interview. And by the way, you're the only journalist in the Philadelphia area that he's going
Holy
to.
cow.
He screamed into the phone. My photographer friend snapped the picture and he said, I'll get back to you tomorrow with the details. So the next day he calls me and he says, well, you saw the interview, but they want someone from the Philadelphia Inquirer to cover it as well. Now, you don't think I said if I can't have an exclusive, I don't want it.
Right.
And I said, okay, just tell me where. And he said, well, I still can't tell you where. And I said, you think I'm going to tell anybody where, So
Yeah.
at the time, I was working as a social worker in a psychiatric hospital. And workaholic that I was, I didn't take the day off. I
Oh
took
my
the morning off.
goodness.
So I walked into the Four Seasons Hotel in Philly, and we had to walk through like a cadre of police officers
Oh
and
yeah. I'm sure
all
the
that.
security was like
Right,
no
yeah.
freaking joke.
And I walked into the room, and he's standing, I don't know, like maybe 10 feet away. The tears start welling. And when you meet His Holiness, you wear a white silk scarf called a kata,
Okay.
Kata. And he took it off, blessed it, put it back around my shoulders, and he hugged me. I have never in my life, this is
Mm.
before Hug Mobsters, never in my life have I had a hug like that. And I was in there with the other journalist, and each of us brought our own photographers. And we spent 45 minutes with him.
Wow.
And it
45
was
whole minutes.
45 minutes with His Holiness. Yep. And he sat close enough that every time he wanted to make a point, he'd pat me on my arm. I'll send you the picture. Um, and it was just, an experience of a lifetime. So
Mm.
all these years later, afterward, I went back to work, to see my clients, and I had to have the article finished for our local newspaper, our county newspaper, by 9 o'clock that night. So I was formulating the article in my head, and when I got home, I started typing it. I sent the first draft, second, third, but back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's, the article that ended up in the newspaper was not really my article. It was a
Yeah.
news article. So I've since written about it for different holistic spiritual publications. So
Mm.
I'll send you the article.
That would be wonderful.
Oh, you're
What's
welcome.
the biggest takeaway you had with your that 45 minutes with him? What was your biggest takeaway from that?
Don't ever give up on your dreams.
Mm.
Ever, if you have a vision to do something, if you have a dream to do something, you stick with it until it happens. I didn't give up. It took probably 20 years to manifest.
Yeah.
And, and he was a really genuine person. He calls himself a simple Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
Um, every time I see him on television or on, anywhere, I think, oh, that's my buddy, because that's what he felt like. He felt like a friend. Now, I don't
Mm.
know that he's going to remember me. And when I told friends about the interview, I said I waited 20 years to interview him. And one of them, I don't remember who said it, bless their heart. How do you know he didn't wait 20 years to be interviewed by you? And I'm like,
Oh,
So,
What a great response.
yep.
We'll keep that friend around.
But I don't remember who it was. That's the problem. Somebody special, but I
Hey,
don't remember who said
that's
it.
just such a good way
Um,
to put that. Okay, are you ready for a quick lightning
all
round?
right, go for
Okay,
it.
favorite place you've offered free hugs?
Ireland, Ayr Square Park in Galway.
Ah,
Can I tell you a quick story about that? Um,
yeah,
real quick,
quick story.
real quick.
Yeah,
Okay, so anyway, when I was walking through the park, this young man, probably 19, 20 years old, shirtless, dreads down to here, was blowing these massive bubbles. Like you get a string and you put it in a bucket
yeah,
and you
yeah.
bubble. And he says, and he saw my free hug sign and we hugged. And he says, "You come from the land of the purple marshmallow people," because my hair was very short and it was purple.
Yeah.
So I went through the park on my way back. He says, "Come here, come here." And I said, "What?" He said, "I'm wearing patchouli oil and I want to get it on you." And we hugged some more. I
Oh,
can send you that picture. So yeah, that was my favorite place to hug.
love it. Love it. What's the most surprising thing somebody said to you during a hug? You're
During a free
hugging.
hug. Surprising, poignant. I went to a veterans homeless shelter in Kensington, which is kind of a drug infested neighborhood in Philly. And I went there with some friends and I did a mini hug workshop talking about the importance of hugs. And
Mm.
this one man was hugging me. He says, "I haven't been touched in 20 years."
Oh my
Can you imagine
goodness.
not being touched by another human being in 20 years?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful. Okay, a book that changed your life.
There's a lot of them, but um, oh goodness. Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. Do you know
Mm,
that book?
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
after I read the book probably when I was in college, and I think I've interviewed him twice since then. Remarkable man. He's probably, I would think in his 70s by now.
Mm,
But it's about overcoming fears. It's about listening to your inner voice. Just amazing, amazing book. I mean, but there's so many other, life-changing books, but that's a big one.
that's a big one. You talked about having the Dalai Lama. That was like your vision board, your thing you were working for. Do you have something big like that right now? Do you have something that's like on a bucket
No,
list?
no, no more. The weird thing is, I mean, that was a bucket list item. Going to Ireland was a bucket list item. Doing a TED Talk was a bucket list item. I don't have another one. So I got to
Mm,
think of what it could be. I mean, these days, I live each day one at a time. I don't have any travel plans. I don't have any, I teach workshops. I do the free hugs thing. I do my full-time work. I don't really have one. Doesn't
mm,
mean it's not out there somewhere, but nothing big comes to mind. So I think maybe as I'm getting older, I'm just slowing my roll
mm.
because what led to the heart attack was running around like a maniac with my hair on fire, like 100 miles an hour, not, so I'm much more mindful, I'm much more meditative than I was back then.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like different things for different times in your life. And who knows
Yeah,
when the next thing that's going to hit your heart and your soul that's like,
yeah,
oh, I need
yeah,
to do that. We never know, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I
If
like being a seasoned woman. That's the other thing too, for those of
yeah,
us of this generation, or I mean, I'm a little bit older, probably a lot older than you.
not
Um,
that much. I'm 49.
oh God, yeah, I'm 60, I'll be 67 next week. But I like the word crone. A lot of people would cringe. To me, it's being a wise woman. I call
Yeah.
myself a seasoned woman. I've been through a lot. By the time, people are my age, we've lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
So I want that, and I want to create a bucket, if you want to call it a bucket list item. I want a much better world for my grandchildren. I want
Mm,
a safe, sane, loving, breathe the air, drink the water, feel free to be yourself world for my grandchildren. So I guess that could be a bucket list item.
okay.
Peaceful,
Well,
peaceful,
I'm gonna
quiet.
change my last question then.
Okay.
If the audience could do one thing that's going to bring about that world, what do you think that one thing would be?
Well, first of all, ask themselves, what kind of world do you want? because just because something isn't affecting you doesn't mean it shouldn't matter to you.
Mm,
Um, to be able to, one of my daily goals is for every child to feel safe with me. That there
mm.
should never be a child that should feel unsafe with anybody.
Yeah.
Not a family member, not a teacher, not a stranger. We are responsible for every child to help them grow up to be good humans.
Right.
Um, so yeah, envision the kind of world you want for the next generations and take the steps necessary to get there,
Mm.
right? And also love that child within you that may not have had that because so many people grew up with trauma and abuse.
Oh,
So
for
love
sure.
that part of you, break the cycle, be the kind of loving parent to yourself that you may not have had, and be a loving support to every child you encounter.
Mm. So beautiful, Edie. Where can people follow you and find you? I know you have so many beautiful stories that I'm sure they're going to want to find you after this. Tell us where
Thank
we can
you.
find you.
Okay, well, my website is optimystical.com, OPTI hyphen mystical, mystical.com. Where that came from was either a meditation or a dream, where the message was you're not just an optimist, you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. So
I
there's
could not
that.
love that more. I
Thank
love
you.
that word and I love the entire
Optimistic.
idea.
Yep, thank you. And the other is I write for the Good Men Project.
Hmm.
So I think it's goodmenproject.com. Um, and I'm on Facebook under EDIE Weinstein, Weinstein. And I post a lot of things that I write, a lot of things that other people write. Again, warning progressive stuff, about wanting to be, how would I describe, I describe myself as a left of center, tree hugging, crunchy granola hippie.
So if you want to follow, do you know what? This is my invitation. My
Mm,
invitation is not just if that's what aligns with you. My invitation is if
mm,
that isn't who you are and you want to connect with somebody who is safe to
mhm.
have conversations with and
Yeah,
to start
yeah.
to understand the other side,
Yeah.
go follow Edie.
Thank
Go
you.
follow her because that's the thing I think we need.
Yeah.
That's my little soapbox of I don't care what your political leaning is. Let's
Mm,
have more safe spaces where we can have, like you had in the grocery store, real conversations with people where we
yeah.
talk about what we care about and why we care about it and
Mhm,
find those things that we can go, yeah, I think all
mhm.
of us want safe places for our kids. I think all of
Yeah.
us want to have them grow up with clean water and clean air and like let's have bridging conversations.
Yep.
So if you're willing
Absolutely.
to do that, then I want you to go and follow Edie. But I don't know about you guys. I feel hugged, not just physically, but I feel very soul hugged. And Reverend Edie reminded us today that it is never too late to live big, live loud, and totally mean it and make a difference. Like every little hug that you went out and you hugged
Mhm.
somebody, every single time it made a difference for that person. And
Thank
so
you.
there's no act that's too small. So that's what I want to say. You matter. Go give somebody a hug today. And this has been Julie May and Ridiculously You. Thank you so much. It has
My
been
pleasure.
an absolute pleasure. I am
Yeah.
so grateful for you.
Share the spark, take it higher. Hit subscribe, bring a friend. Let the wildness never end. Tap in, stand true. This is your crew.